off-road racing. 4x4s, quads, bikes, varying conditions and time trials. It's the 1998 Sugarbelt 400. Proving that teammates work together, Valen Smith looks to be well in control of his blaster as he finds the correct route. But then blocks his copybook by getting on the power a tad early, and he lets the rear wheel take out a fence post and a few meters of fencing. Poor farmer. Meanwhile, on the East Loop, the Toyota Land Cruiser of Reinicke and Houghton was simply flying. During the summer break, tuning fundi Roger Taylor had been given the task of turning the Land Cruiser into a proper off-road racer. It now features much more suspension travel and better weight distribution as opposed to last year's car. Former Formula Ford and GTI circuit racer Bahrain was still holding off the much more powerful race car of Carolyn, but the nature of the terrain and heavy dust ensured that passing was almost impossible. Carolyn was also being hampered by a rear brake problem, which didn't help matters at all. Alberts and Mateo were running strongly. Their VW-powered race car is fitted with a trick automatic gearbox, which in certain conditions is a great help. Barker and Latergan were holding a strong second in the production category race. Despite the V8 sounding strong, they seemed unable to make any impression on the leading Toyota. Special category championship leaders Harvey and Stone were running at a steady pace in fourth, but keeping a watchful eye on Schilling and Thorne, who were charging hard after suffering a puncture. Gentlemen pull off far enough to allow other competitors free passage when they strike problems. This is one of the unwritten laws of off-road racing. Eastern Cape's Class B quick-fit racecar crew of Newton Love and Colin Pote must have been relieved to see that that rule is still respected. Prior to the start, they were lying 6th in the championship, and a good result here was all important for them. Tony Yo, who races with his wife Mandy, had higher hopes for his Saybat Land Rover.
Competition-wise, Pajero is my benchmark, and I'm going to take an ex-Perry Deco Pajero and give him credits this time. It's his turn. Of course, see what we can do with the other 4x4s. Should beat Cliffy and see what we can do with that one.
A positive man. Powered by a 2.8-litre BMW motor, the Landy can be heard from miles away. Kenny Schulthammer was also upbeat.
Well, you know what they say. We'll talk tomorrow night. He's not in my category, he's in Class D, but I think this little Class E can do the job and beat him. So we'll have a look tomorrow evening. We'll look at the results when they show.
Woolridge and Vermaak were still running well, not quite on the leader's pace, but well enough considering that they were keeping an eye on the temperature gauge and only having two-wheel drive with which to transmit 3.5 litres of supercharged power to the ground. At least they were happy and still mobile.
And what happened to you?
No, we run out of fuel.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Going to get some more, see if we can get spraying again.
What problem did you have?
No, we just got stuck inside here, and then we broke the car. Somebody tried to pull me out, and he smashed the engine cage onto the alternator. So I can't. No, that's all.
There you go. This is it. Back on the road again.
Back on the road, yeah. Big guy. We still got till, I think, cut-offs about 4 o'clock, so we should finish it. Got enough fuel in the pits.
Yeah, well, no, fine. By now, the leading bikes were on the East Loop, having completed their first section, and Cox was showing no signs of relaxing his pace at the front. He makes it look so easy, doesn't he? A couple of minutes behind, Campbell was having the race of his life, despite finding the odd car stuck en route. No problems, though, as the drivers had either pulled off or given fair warning. It was the same for everyone, though, and Spencer Kirill seemed to be enjoying himself. Next up was the ever-spectacular Darryl Curtis on his trusty KTM. In fact, it almost seemed as though the two-wheel brigade had entered into a competition, unofficial that is, to see who could land closest to our poor cameraman. That's a tough job, but someone has to do it. There was the odd stream that competitors had to contend with. 200 class leader Van Niekerk hardly seemed to notice it at all. Neither did fellow KTM rider Evan Pretorius, nor Shumwell's Yamaha rider Craig Ramsey. By now the cars were well into the west loop and the order at the front hadn't changed at all. But it soon did, as Reinecker punctured a tyre and dropped back a few places. Often races like this become a race of attrition, but this year all the front-running cars had proved to be reliable. Class B leader Bo Rain was still holding off his bigger engine rival Carolyn. This battle had been raging since the start and showed little signs of letting up. Stuck winners Harvey and Stone still held third in the category and were close enough to the leaders to take advantage should either of them wrong slot or pick up a puncture. Schilling's enthusiasm almost got the better of him. Those trees are many and unforgiving. Barker was still holding second in the production category and was having his final outing in his Land Rover that took him to the 94 championship. His new steed will be both lighter and more powerful. Remy Moons and Frans van Lissau travelled from Windhoek, but it was to no avail as they retired before completing the second section. There was a lot more water on this section than on the first loop, but dust was still a problem. Locals Richard Everingham and Dion LaRue have always gone well on this event in their self-built ETT Bushmaster. On this loop they moved up to second in class to maintain their record. Although the quads had started well behind the bikes, the cars had easily caught some of the stragglers. It must be pretty scary being a quad rider and knowing that there's a 2-ton Land Rover bearing down on you. Sadly, the Land Rover never made it to the end after its gearbox gave up the ghost. By now, the leading Pajero was starting to slip back a bit as the roads became rougher and two-wheel drive became a bigger disadvantage. Lesotho's Wilfried Weslau's unique Perspex-bodied raceco enables spectators to see a driver at work. He's one of the stalwarts of off-road racing and has been for almost 20 years. Former two-wheel expert Nick Harper now teamed up with Andrew Chalupsky, who was struggling with the dust and a puncture on their ex-Schilling championship-winning raceco. That didn't help them either. Another Lesotho-based crew is that of Alex Sally and Ashraf Abu Bakr in the Lady Brand Land Rover V8 raceco. Despite a misfire, they were looking for a top 6 placing. Perhaps the most unusual car seen regularly is the plastic-bodied Chev special of Johan Gerber and Kutsiela Viscachny.